So let's get started. I have my water ready. I have already wet my paints by just dropping some water in them. I am using praying paint, which is just something you can find at your local stores. You could use other colors. And if you have the small set or the large set, that also works. So what we're gonna do is I've taped down, and I'm just using poster board today, but you could use heavy weighted paper, you could use mixed media, you could use watercolor paper. And I just have a board that I tape everything down to and paint on. But if you don't even have that option, you can just, you know, go straight ahead and start painting. So what we're gonna do is start by layering our colors just wet on wet. So that means once I have something wet, I'm just gonna keep layering on other stuff that is already wet. So one thing you can do is pre-wet your paper lightly, like you're not wanting to drench it, but this way it will have a flow. And you can use different size brushes too. You could get a wider brush like this one, but if you're just using the brush that it came with, that's fine too. And I'm just gonna work on the horizontal one, but the first thing I'm going to do is just do some warm colors since we're doing a sunset. And I'm gonna just kind of go in with a little bit of yellow, and I'm loading my brush so it gets enough paint on it. And then I'm gonna put it back and forth. So I'm just blending it in. And remember, we want those wispy marks, so don't just load it all straight yellow. We're gonna add orange and other colors in it. And then what I'm gonna do is go in, re-wet my brush a little bit, then go into my orange and start adding orange to it. And this is where you may need to start layering more colors. Once it settles a little bit, you'll be like, I need more paint there. And these are our warmer color sunsets, and our other ones that we're gonna do will have some pinks and blues and stuff to them. So this one's more like that bright, warm colors. And if you have the larger pack, you can mix colors, but because this is wet, you could just mix on top. And I'm leaving a little bit of yellow here and there. And then I'm going to go in and add some red in a few spots. And if you think it's too much, you can always blot it with your paper towel that you should have handy for your brushes. I'm gonna put more down here. And black is going down towards the bottom, remember, because that's where we're going to be putting our land. And once this dries a little bit, if you want to go back in with the orange or more red, you can do that. So the other one, which is our horizontal one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of wet our paper a little bit. We need to let it dry before we move on to the next step. So for these two, I'm gonna use cooler colors for the sunset, where we could add a little pink, a little bit of purple, you could even do some blue. So I'm going to have this all taped down and still wet my paper down some, just very lightly. So this is the wet on wet method, meaning the paper's wet where it's going and my paints are wet. I've already loaded my paints with water, so they are good to go. Load your brush, and then let's just start blending it in. go down towards the bottom, but remember the bottom edge of this is going to be where the land will be. So I'm starting with blue, but what I'm going to start doing also is grab a little bit of purple. And if you need to re-wet your brush as you go, do that so the paint moves around more. Maybe you want some more blue in there. I'm just gonna keep adding more blue. And yours doesn't have to look just like mine, but notice I'm going back and forth because the paper is horizontal format, and I'm going off the edge when I'm doing it. Just put some more purple in there. We could even add a touch of red in that purple. That's more blue. If you want it to be a little bit darker, what you can do is mix your blue with your black. Little bit of black. Then move it around. This makes it look a little bit darker sky. Do just a touch more to make it a little bit darker up here. And then once this dries, if you need to go back over it with another layer of this, you can. Just don't pre-wet your paper again. Just layer it on top. And for this one, what I'm thinking is I'm going to do still wetting the piece of paper, and this one is our vertical one. And if you don't have pink in your simple tray, what you would do for watercolors is just add more water to it. So this time I'm going to start with my red. That's a pre-wet paint here, and just load the brush again. These are just like little tiny marks that I'm doing. I'm feathering them in, which just means that you're blending them in. Rinsing my brush out a little bit just so it's not so heavy. But this way I have it loaded with water. And also you can notice if you just dab a little paint on it, how it will start fading because all the paper is wet right now. So even if I had a smaller brush, like the one that came with this, I could put some red here and you could see how it's going to start flowing outward. So we could add some of those lines in. Just let them fade to where they need to go. Maybe come back over here while this is still wet and do some more purple. now we just need to let it dry, and then we'll start adding in our designs for all the silhouettes. So we'll put our land in, and then we'll put in our trees or your animals, your buildings, whichever kind of design that you were deciding to do.